We're back with episode 2 of my retro film series. Today we are going to be talking about 3 movies, Back to the Future, the trilogy. Alright guys, we're going to break it down into Back to the Future Part 1, 2, and 3. We're going to talk about my general thoughts on each film, give a rating for each of them, and let's get into it. Let's kick it off with Back to the Future Part 1. Now all 3 of these films are directed by Robert Zemeckis, and they all 3 star Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly and Christopher Lloyd as Dr. Brown. I just want to say, these films are like childhood to me. I've always watched them when I was growing up, and they're like films like The Shawshank Redemption, where I haven't watched in a long ass time, and if you guys followed my channel last year, you know I picked them up on 4K, the whole trilogy, and it's so fun to revisit them, and I actually just the other day watched Back to the Future 1 and 2. But let's get into Part 1. So Part 1, the plot basically is Marty, who is 17 years old, is accidentally sent 30 years into the past by a time-traveling DeLorean invented by his friend, Dr. Emmett Brown, and that's basically the plot of it. There are so many comedic elements in when they go back to when they go 30 years in the past, when he meets his mom falls in love with him. It's very weird. He tries to get his father to get with his mom. It's so many cool elements that I really like, but let's get into it. So the film is an hour and 56 minutes, and the film is just utterly perfect with its runtime. There's no points where it really slows down, in my opinion. I love all the characters in these films. Marty is just so relatable and enjoyable to watch. Same thing with Dr. Emmett Brown. Just fun to watch, and it's just fun to watch these two characters chew up the scenery and just have fun with each other. It's just so relaxing, something about it. The score by Alan Silvestri, who also did the Avengers score, it's awesome. I love the score. It's so iconic. But I have to say, like, Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd as these characters, 1.21 gigawatt. They just own these characters. They really do. And later on in the video, I'm going to talk about, there's a rumor that I want to talk about and get off my chest and my thoughts about. But overall, the plot is really straightforward and easy to follow. It's not like a hard to understand time travel movie where it's very complicated. It's very straightforward. They go in the past and do things in the past, and it could alter their future, and they have to fix it. And I like that. It's so straightforward, easy to watch, and I really love it. And it's a great immersive experience. It's pure escapism in its finest. All 3 of these films are really pure escapism, and they have a lot of heart to them, and that's what I like. Sometimes with time travel movies, they're very dark and mysterious. In these films, it's fun to watch. They got heart, and that's what sometimes you just need, especially like when I watched them last year and a couple weeks ago. It's just something nice to escape to. I really love Back to the Future Part 1. I really do. I give it a 10 out of 10. It is a masterpiece classic, guys. It really is. In my opinion, I want to know your guys' thoughts. Alright guys, let's get into Part 2, Back to the Future Part 2. Now, the overall plot of this is, after coming off of the wacky plot of 1955, we know that right at the end of Back to the Future Part 1, this film takes place right from the end and goes forward, and we end up going into the future to 2015. I remember there were all those things that were going on back in October of 2015 that matched up with the date of Back to the Future Part 2, and that we were supposed to have hoverboards and flying cars and shit, and that never happened. Or those shoes. I think they actually made those Nike shoes that were like electric or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. They go to 2015 to straighten out a family problem, and when they return in 1985, they quickly discover that Biff has turned Hill Valley into a hellhole. Their only chance to restore it is go back to 1955 to reset the timeline and set things right. This is something that I love about this film. Although it's got problems, I'm gonna admit it, this is my favorite Back to the Future film out of the whole trilogy. It's my personal favorite. It really is. From the storytelling aspect, I like how they go to 2015, then they go back to 1955. They revisit all of these areas in time that I love, and it really sticks to the name Back to the Future. I love the flying DeLorean in this film. That's why I have the Lego down there. If you guys watch my video, I set it to my favorite film, Back to the Future Part 2, with the hover mode, and I love that a lot, that it can actually fly. The special effects in this film film, and I forget to talk about the first one. They're really good for, what, 1985, I think the first one came out, and I forgot what date was this one. But either way, the effects were really good in this film as well. A great score, and like I said, the plot is just fun to watch. It really is. It's very immersive, and it's just pure escapism, and you love these two characters. You love Marty, and you love Dr. Brown, and you just love seeing Biff be an asshole for the whole fucking time. But it's just something about the second one for me that I really love, but also second one I have problems with as well. No film is perfect in the end, and I know that. There are certain films that I love to death that aren't perfect. Dark Knight Rises, for an example. But this film actually suffers from the plot being 1 hour and 48 minutes of a runtime. It does really slow down for me in the second act, and it really drags a bit, and that was my main issue, but I still think that this is my favorite out of them all. Obviously, the first film is the strongest film and is overall the best class masterpiece, but overall, I give Back to the Future Part 2 a 9 out of 10. I love it that much, guys, and I intend to rewatch the sequel or the second one over and over and over. But guys, let's get into Back to the Future Part 3. Now, Part 3, stranded in 1955, Marty gets a letter from Dr. Brown. I'm reading the plot synopsis, to where he can find the DeLorean. Where he can find the DeLorean. However, an unfortunate discovery prompts Marty to go to his friend's aid. They go to try to find the DeLorean. Dr. Brown leaves a letter for Marty to follow. Unfortunately, Marty has to go to his friend's aid, and using the time machine, Marty travels to the Old West, which is where his friend falls in love with the school teacher, and they have to basically get one more trip back to the future. So basically the plot of Back to the Future Part 3 is they travel to the old Wild West with Dr. Emmett Brown falling in love with the school teacher there, and Marty is trying to get back to his present timeline, 1985, I believe it was, and since he was stranded in 1955, and he has to find the DeLorean, and he meets Dr. Emmett Brown from this timeline, and they have to try to get things back together, and he's got to also try to save Dr. Brown as well. Overall, this is as you guys can tell, with an hour and 58 minute runtime too, this film is actually my least favorite out of the trilogy, but I won't let that stop. Let me tell you what I don't like about the film. Overall, I don't like the old Wild West setting. I never really enjoyed that. I always felt like it dragged a lot overall, the whole storyline, and for me, it really did drag. It really did, and I never liked that as a setting, the Wild West. I just don't like the Wild West. I don't really like a lot of movies like that. There's one Clint Eastwood film that I actually enjoy that's like based in that time, but overall, I just don't enjoy a lot of these films that are in the Wild West overall. But I can't lie that Robert Zemeckis really handled the same tone across all three films, and that makes this film enjoyable and entertaining to watch too. Like I said, it is not my favorite, and would I go back and rewatch this? Probably not, but if it's on, I'll watch it definitely, or if I just have to click on something to watch. The special effects in this film and the score, they're all there still, and I just love seeing the banter between Marty and fucking Dr. Emmett Brown. Their chemistry just is like lightning in this film, and I just love to see them. But overall, like I said, this is not my favorite out of the trilogy. It's my least favorite actually out of the trilogy, and I gotta give it an 8 out of 10. It's still highly enjoyable. I would watch it if it's on or something like that, but overall I would definitely go to the second one or the first one before this one. Well, guys, you guys know all my ratings. Back to the Future 1, 10 out of 10 masterpiece classic. Back to the Future Part 2 is 9 out of 10, and this one is an 8 out of 10. Now guys, I want to talk about, there's a rumor that's been floating around for a couple years now that they want to reboot or make a sequel to Back to the Future. Now I'll just get this out there, guys. Personally, I don't think a sequel or a reboot will ever top the trilogy at all. I don't. Whether you have Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd return as Marty and Dr. Emmett Brown as a sequel, I don't think it's going to be as good as these originals. It's a possibility, but especially a reboot will never capture the essence of Back to the Future Part 1, 2, or 3. Now, there's been rumors that Tom Holland might play Marty McFly. There's been very brief rumors about this, and I could see it. I really could. I guarantee it might be enjoyable to watch, but overall, the original is always going to stay in my heart, and I will always respect the original. And I'm just going to say that out of all three of these films, you're never going to be able to top it with the reboot. That's the truth, guys. And we've seen this proven in history over and over. The same thing that I talked about with the Shawshank Redemption. You're never going to top the Shawshank Redemption. You're never going to capture that originality at all. whether it's Robert Zemeckis that returns as directing, if he even directs anymore, that's what I'm just saying. You're never going to capture how entertaining, how full of heart, and how original those films are. But guys, let me know your thoughts below. Do you guys agree with how I rated Back to the Future Part 1 through 3? Do you guys agree? Which is your favorite Back to the Future? Guys, let me know in the comments below. And guys, let me know your thoughts on a Back to the Future /reboot/sequel. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe for more, and I will see you guys real soon.